Welcome back, friends. So today I'm going to do a series of jelly prints, and they're going to be with metallic paints. I'm going to use 3 different kinds of metallic paints, and the one that I use the most is this iridescent bronze. Then I also have some silver and an iridescent pearl. And the thing I like about the iridescent pearl is you can mix it with other colors and it makes those colors look iridescent. So this is a very transparent paint, and it makes, let's say, like a phthalo blue, a beautiful iridescent color. So this is very versatile, and I use it a lot in this video. So let's get started. So today we're going to do a jelly print session where we're working in metallics. So I have these 2. I have this iridescent bronze and I have iridescent pearl. The pearl I'm going to mix with other colors. This will make any color that I want into more of an iridescent. And this is just a beautiful finish at the top. I'm going to always finish with this. And we're going to do layers, but we're going to do them by registering the paper and starting with, so it's the opposite of the layers where we're doing a single pull, where whatever you want to show on top, you put down first. So instead, we're going to start with the background and we're going to work forward. And our last pull will be this. And probably this mask. This is one of my new masks that I just cut this weekend. And I have different size patterns. So like this is a tiny pattern. This looks good over it. So I'm going to work, or I can use like these 2. So I have circles all over my plate. I suggest you get a small plate if you're a beginner because it really does help you learn to use your brayer and, play with paint without wasting too much paint. And it's just, you can buy 8-inch stencils and they'll completely cover the plate. The bigger the plate, the bigger your stencils have to be. I cut my own stencils a lot. Like these are hand cut on the Cricut. And so what I do is I get a little bit creative where I can make them fit, because I only have a Cricut Joy and it doesn't, so I have these little, and I even like the little shape that it gives us in the center. Anyway, and stamps are always fun. So I have some stamps, or you can use bubble wrap or something like that. We might even do that today. We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit because this is going to be very, very long if I don't. And we are going to get started with a little bit of, I want to do a high contrast one, so I'm starting with carbon black. And I'm just going to push the paint through this stencil. These openings are kind of small, so I'm really pushing it in there. Spreading it out in a whole, on the entire plate, and making sure that I have good coverage. So now I have to wait for it to dry. And because I put so much paint in there, it took a little longer than it usually does. Okay, so now I'm going to lay down, do a little bit of an ombre with, I think this was, I'll put the colors down below. I don't remember what this was. I think it was Hansa Yellow and maybe some kind of pyrrole orange or something. So like I said, we're doing layers, but we're doing it registered. So I'm taping down the paper so that the next time I lay it down, it'll be in the same place. They do have registration tools out there that they sell, but I don't have any. So this one was a disappointment. As you see, a lot of the paint stuck to the plate. And I was very upset about it, but I kept going because sometimes interesting things happen. So I figured let's just keep going. Oops, I got a big glob of industrial. I mean, who wants to waste paint? Anyway, I decided that I had to pick it up because it was just not going to work out. And so now I have nice solid gold blobs that I'll probably use for some kind of collage project in the future. So you have to be careful when you're squeezing out of these. Sometimes you have to like squeeze it somewhere else first in case you're going to get a big glob. So I'm trying to get a nice even coat. I didn't clean up my plate enough, but it's okay. So anyway, I'm carefully laying down over the same area. So I'm also, even though this is sped up, I'm leaving it, I'm not cutting out any part of the paper process so that you can see how long I left it on the plate. This was not completely picking up for some reason, but it finally did. I do still have those scabs on the plate. And as far as I'm concerned, this was a fail, but what can you do? Things happen. So moving on, I'm putting down some phthalo blue. I'm hoping to pick up those scabs and also the leftover iridescent bronze. I'm using the same stencil, and I'm using a pickup sheet just to get the areas inside the stencil, and I'm going to leave the ghost. So I switched to deli paper because I can really get into those little openings and get a cleaner ghost print. And I don't have to register my paper yet. So my first layer I'm going to let dry, and my second layer is where I'm going to register the paper. And then the third, so that the third layer will be in the same place. So it's taking a while to dry again. Maybe it has to do with the humidity in the room. So anyway, I'm mixing on another plate off to the right. And I've, with the phthalo blue and the I think it was titanium white and some Hansa yellow, I've made an actual pretty color. Oh, it wasn't Hansa yellow, it was the pearl, because it becomes a little more iridescent pearl. So now I'm going to tape down my paper. And the scabs picked up, and I've got beautiful iridescence going on. And I like the scabs in this case. So now I'm going to lay down my mask. And this time I was smart. I got it started over the bronze over on the other plate just to make sure that I wasn't going to get a big glob again. This iridescent bronze is a beautiful color that covers the plate like it was made for the plate. I'm putting just a little bit more. It's very opaque. So that's my top layer now, my third layer. I'm very happy with this one. Okay, so since I had all this like beautiful iridescent green, I decided to mix up a little bit more and start with that color on my plate. And I'm laying down my circles. And this is just my pickup sheet. So I decide that this time I'm registering that first sheet. And I'm picking up my ghost that I'll use for something else. And I'm picking it up with rice paper. It still didn't completely pick up, as you could see. So I decide to lay down some, I think it's phthalo blue. Probably phthalo green shade. I'm not sure. I'll put the links below. So I figure, you know, whenever I'm doing a session, I have, especially with registered prints, the consequences of what happens in between still has to be picked up and not wasted. This way you have extra papers that you could use for collage in the future, but you're trying to get, you know, work towards an end. So I'm using some stamp here. It's just like very simple dots. And that is transparent paint, but I don't know if it's going to cover up too much of those nice, beautiful iridescent dots that I had going on there. And I think it did. But we keep trying. And so now I'm going for, again, a lighter application of the green and yellow. And I'm going to put more circles over the top of it. Since I covered up those circles, I decided to put more on top. And since I had that other clean pickup sheet, I'm just going to pick up right over it. So this is a little busy for me. I'm not, I like more minimalist, clean. It's just looking a little busy. Anyway, I decided to just lay these random shapes that I have. These were from inside of my other open, irregular patterns that I have that I love so much. But the inserts that came out of the stencil, I've always kept and used because I think they make great negative space artwork on the jelly. So obviously that's the iridescent bronze, and I'm using the stamp to just create some texture within the iridescent bronze, so it's not just solid. I love that little Greek key. So you'll notice I started out with some rice paper in the beginning, but now I've moved to copy paper. So I'm not unhappy with this, but like I said, it's a little busy for me. Okay, so moving on again, I'm starting with green gold and a little Hansa yellow. I wanted to make sure I didn't get too much green gold in my yellow. So that's going to be my background. So there was a lot of stuff still on the plate, but I love that little grungy background. The stuff that you pull off the plate sometimes just adds more interest to the final print, especially when it's a background. So I was just checking to see if I like those two things together. And I'm going with this quinacridone azo, nickel azo gold. You know, that's the color that they are going to be discontinuing. Breaks my heart because it makes such a beautiful color on the plate, and the transparency is wonderful. But you know, they've listed on their website a video that shows you how you can create, or at least come close to that color, using, I think, iron oxide and some other color. I will, once I figure that out, I will let you know about that. So again, we're going back to our iridescent bronze. A little bit of stamping. You know, so sometimes I peek and I don't like the way the paint's coming up, but that was pretty good. Anyway, I'm not so sure I like those colors in combination with the iridescent bronze, but I like the layout. So I wasn't going to show this part, and it's sort of off camera a little bit, but the plate to my right had a lot of paint on it, and I didn't like the way it was building up. I wanted to clean the plate. And the only reason why I'm showing it is because I love the print that I got from this. So I've just laid down some titanium white over the entire plate, and then pulled an amazing what could possibly be a background for future collage. And then I decided to clean off this smaller plate as well before I move forward. And I'll show you in a second what the result of that first one was. So this is a really nice, clean background that I could use for something. And this one has a lot of buildup of paint, but look at that. It's got the iridescent bronze, it's got the pearl mixed in with other colors. I love what's happening around the edges, a little bit of black on the left-hand side. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to probably mount this to a board and then collage on top of it. So now I'm starting with the phthalo blue green shade. And I've mixed it with a little bit of the pearl, iridescent pearl. I've decided to put a little bit more pearl to the left and a little deeper blue on the right. So I'm going to use some stamps. So I'm cleaning off my stamp on the sheet on the left. Or at least sometimes I am. So I'm going to start with that background. Register it. And now I'm going to try some interference paint. So I have this little sample bottle of, I think this is the green shade. I also have the fluid acrylics, but I found that the fluid interference does not give me really the coverage that I want on a plate. So I'm going to use that, I guess it's a soft body that's in the jar. And again, the middle of the plate didn't want to pick up. I might need to condition this plate a little bit, having some problems with it. Another thing that I've noticed with iridescent colors is the way they stick to the plate. And cleaning up your plate is challenging afterwards. That's what I've noticed. So I was just, again, picking up some paint on that side plate. And here's the iridescent, well, it's interference paint, green shade. And I just did an overall coverage. And now I'm going to pick up from within this square stencil, random squares. So I'll also link these stencils that I've purchased in the link below. Now we have a ghost, and I'm going to just try to pick it up. Now I noticed that the square edges, when I did that, became more pronounced. So I decided to just lay some phthalo blue and pick this up with a pickup sheet. I just went right over what I just used to clean up the other plate, just layering. And I'm very happy with the way that came out. The interference paints, I don't know that much about. I would like to know a little bit more, but right now I don't know that much. So I think I'm just cleaning up my plate, and I probably put too much paint down. As you can see, I keep taking more paint off. So this is just to clean the plate a little bit, because we've got this I keep wanting to call it iridescent. This interference paint is really stuck on there, so I want to get that completely off, and I want to try to maybe lay down some paint to fill in those spots that had actually I like that cleanup sheet, but those spots on the edges that had no paint on the previous print, I'm going to try to do something with that. So just along the edges and down the middle where I didn't have paint. And this is alizarin crimson, which is also a transparent paint. Or maybe, oh, no, it's the Nicolazo. I'm sorry. Kind of blotchy. Not happy with that, but maybe after I lay my iridescent bronze on top of that, maybe it won't be so bad. Okay, so this is still the Quin Nickel Azo Gold, but it's mixed with some of the pearl. And there might even be some iridescent bronze still stuck on my brayer. And I'm just laying, like a transparent layer over this mess that I've already created. And yeah, it's kind of a failure. So I like to include my failures because I want you to see, like, what happens when you experiment. Sometimes it's not always perfect, but that's what experimenting is all about. So I think I'm just doing a pickup sheet here, again cleaning my plate. Okay, so now that it's nice and clean, I'm starting with a phthalo green and an iridescent pearl. And you could see the shine there. That iridescent pearl is absolutely amazing. It does very well on the plate when mixed with other colors. By itself, I'm not so keen on because it's a bit transparent. But when you mix other colors, it turns that color into an iridescent. And as you could see from that little bit of green that's right there, that is a beautiful green by itself. I mean, it's a nice, vibrant green. Again, I will link all the paint that I'm using below, the colors. Okay, so this is the phthalo green without mixing any pearl with it, so it's slightly darker, and I'm using some stamps again. And I'm going to lay this over the lighter green that we did. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Okay, so I cleaned up my plate a little bit. Now I'm putting down my mask again. And I'm going to lay some of the iridescent bronze on top layer. So a lot of times when you do the same thing over and over again, in terms of composition with just minor changes, it helps you figure out what works and what doesn't work, so that the next time you do this, you already know what to do, especially when you are planning a composition. So I'm laying that on top of the green. Okay, so my results are getting a little bit better. I'm still not as happy with that as the first green one that I did, because that one had, that bit of black and a little bit more design interest in the middle with the stencil. And I also got a more even coat of the iridescent bronze around the edges. So as my plate is getting a little grungier around the edges, it's not working as well with the iridescent bronze. So I'm going to go to this nice delicate stencil that is one of my favorites. This one I purchased from Amazon, so I will leave a link below. I love the ghost print that this makes, so I think that's probably what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to lay the mask on top. And this is carbon black with a little bit of the phthalo blue. I add blue to it to just make it a little bit richer. And I'm just going to pick it up onto that other, which turned out to be a cleanup sheet. Just going to pick up in between, leaving me with a ghost print. That'll be a nice collage paper. So to clean it up really good, I'm using the deli paper. At least I have some use for this deli paper. Probably not going to use any of the deli paper in collage in the future. So I'm waiting for this to dry a little bit. And then I'm going to decide what to do next. So I decide that I'm going to make this really simple on this one, and I'm just going to put down some iridescent bronze and just pick up the ghost print with that. Don't know what I was thinking. Of course it's not going to work because that center section is already too dry. So I just wasn't thinking clearly. So you'll see in a second. So I decided to do this with rice paper because I realized that paint is too dry and maybe it'll pick up better with the rice paper. Again, I'm including my failures because, you know, sometimes you're just not having a good day too. I think that was the case here. I was not having a good day. But I still have some experiences that happened during this session that I'm happy with and that I learned from. So as you can see, I did manage to pick it up, but it was not a good pickup. And I wanted to see what that black was going to look like on top of the iridescent bronze. Definitely liked that part, and it picked up that part well. So, but I just needed to maybe lay another color on top of that. That's what I should have done. Okay, so on this next one, I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow and pearl, iridescent pearl. I added a little bit more pearl on top. So pretty even coat. And I'm registering my paper, and now I'm back to the rice paper. It's slightly bigger paper, so that gives you a clue. And I love the way this background looks. It's even, but it's not perfect. We don't like perfect. At least I don't like perfect. Anyway, I'm starting with the carbon black. I didn't add any blue this time, just black. And I'm using my nice stencil again. I'm again picking up with the same deli paper that I used before. I figured maybe if I keep layering it, I'll get like a skin that I can actually use in a collage. Okay, so now I'm going to allow that to dry, and I'm mixing some yellow and pearl again, even though that's what I already used. But the reason why I'm doing that is I want to get a clean pickup of that black paint. Without changing my background too much, I guess, if that makes any sense. So sometimes the paper feels really cool and I don't want to pick it up. But anyway, as you could see, I really got a good print there. But this is supposed to be all about the iridescent bronze, so I'm still feeling like I need to add another layer. So I'm going to use my circles, and I'm going to push the bronze through the circles. And lay that right over, not waiting for it to dry. So I hope I've been clear about when you want to wait for it to dry and when you want to pick it up when it's wet. Leave a comment below if I still have not been clear about that. And I like the way this one came out. Okay, so now I'm going to leave that little bit of ghost that's still on the plate. And I'm just going to, I mixed a little, I think it was the phthalo green and a little bit of yellow. And I might have gotten some of the iridescent pearl that was still on the plate, on the other right-hand plate. We shall see. So I think those richer color greens look best with the iridescent bronze. And I'm registering my paper. So see, I did get a little bit of iridescence, and now I've picked up a little bit of that what do you call it? Iridescent bronze, excuse me. All right, so now we're going to try something a little different with the layout. And I'm going to lay some of the phthalo blue and push it through the circles. And I'm going to lay this down right on top while it's still wet. So most of the time, let's try to clarify that. You want to keep it wet when you only have a single layer, and you're just layering that layer on top of the previous layer. So when you're trying to pick up 2 layers at the same time, that first layer you put down must be dry. Hopefully that will make it more clear to you. And now I'm cleaning off the plate over on the right hand side, because it just starts to get built up with paint. And wow, that's interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to lay another layer on top of that. Okay, so I'm sorry this video is going kind of a bit long. This was a stencil that was a fail, so I decided to use it at least once and do something a little bit unusual here. And I didn't have enough to fill the whole plate, so I added a little bit of that extra piece that was in my infinity symbol. Almost like a little swash. And we're doing a little phthalo blue. And this is probably the most complex of all of the ones that I did, and I'm very happy with the results. So even though we're going a bit long, I'm going to include it. So I'm using some rice paper, and I'm going to register. So a little piece of my broken stencil was stuck to the plate. So I decided to use silver again. And a little bit of the blue is still on my brayer. And I just wanted to do like a transparent coat of the silver. And it made a really pretty blue. So now I'm going to do my infinity symbol and my bronze. So now this is my third coat. And I think it's going to be my last coat. So I take it off the tape. And then I get another idea. I changed my mind. But I've also unregistered it. So I try to re-register it. Put the tape back down. And then I get this idea. So I want to get something right down the middle, and I have this other stencil that I just recently created. So I decide that I'm just going to do a little bit of the black, just going diagonally. And I absolutely love the way this came out. So that is like another new thing I'll probably be incorporating in my future, especially with that type of like real organic looking, almost calligraphy looking stencil. So I thought I would share some of my pickup sheets, you know, the ones that came from the right-hand side and also from cleaning the plate. During this session, you just see, this is that one that I said I absolutely love and will become a background of a future collage. Absolutely. This was just one where I picked up twice, and you'll see the scabs on the side, or the part that didn't pick up, the borders, where they're overlapping, but just a little bit, a quarter of an inch off center, off. That was two different pulls. This was one that had a little iridescence. This is the skin that I was talking about. It definitely, that top part there will be able to be, because it's not attempting to be transparent, will be able to be a collage paper. This is another one that could be used as a background that I love, with the iridescence and the greens and the yellows. I love this piece. I could use maybe just the top. And then this was another one that also has some iridescence. Could be as a starter background. Okay, so here's what I came up with. That was the first one that I really like a lot, that has that little bit of black that pulled up off the plate. That one is similar, but I wasn't very happy with it. This is just a pickup sheet, but I'm happy with all that iridescent bronze that stayed. This was a complete failure, seriously. But, you know, it could possibly be used for a collage. This one you didn't get to see. Not very metallic. This was turned out to be my favorite. That one I kind of like too. And this one. This one, not so much. Not terrible. And that one also not terrible, but a little busy for me. So thanks for stopping by today. I hope you like this iridescent bronze. I'm in love with it. I just have to learn to work with it a little bit more. Find out what colors really work with this. If you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. I'm just absolutely thrilled with the little community that we're building here. So please keep commenting, keep reaching out to me. I love hearing from you all. I will continue to keep coming up with some ideas and posting at least twice a week. And don't forget, you create, inspire, and share. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.